Huldra's lullaby. The air in the dense Norwegian forest was thick with mist. Evening was falling, and the trees stood like silent sentinels in the twilight. The long shadows of the pines stretched across the forest floor, their branches creaking in the wind that seemed to carry whispers from beyond. No one ventured into these woods after dark, for it was said that the Huldra roamed the forest, her haunting song luring men to their doom. Johan had always been drawn to the forest. As a child, his grandfather would tell him stories of the Huldra, an enchanting creature with flowing hair, a beautiful face, and a hidden tail. Her voice, he said, could twist the heart of any man, filling him with longing. But the price of her love was steep. Those who answered her call would never return. But Johan didn't believe in such tales. The forest, to him, was a place of solace, a refuge from the bustling village where he lived. So when the summer solstice arrived, he decided to venture into the heart of the woods to seek peace and clarity, his heart heavy with unspoken words and unhealed wounds. He thought perhaps the forest might help him find a way to heal. As dusk settled into night, the forest seemed to awaken. The chirping of birds stopped, and the wind carried an eerie stillness, as if the trees were holding their breath. Johan walked deeper, his steps soft on the moss-covered ground, when he heard it, a distant, melodious tune that filled the air. It was like a lullaby, sweet and sorrowful, wrapped in a strange sadness. He froze. The song wrapped itself around him like a lover's touch, stirring something deep inside him. His heart raced, and his feet moved before his mind could catch up, as if the melody had cast a spell on him. He followed the sound, drawn toward it, desperate for its beauty, its warmth. In a small clearing he saw her. There she stood, as if the forest itself had birthed her from its depths, the Huldra. Her skin shimmered like moonlight, her golden hair cascading down her back, and her eyes, wide and shimmering, held a mystery that could not be unlocked. Her lips parted in the lullaby, the song beckoning Johan closer. "You've come," she said, her voice soft like the rustling of leaves in the wind. Johan's breath caught in his throat. He had heard the legends, of course, but standing before her, her beauty and grace took his words away. "I've been waiting," she whispered, stepping closer. Her tail, long and sleek, swayed gently behind her, hidden beneath the fabric of her gown. She reached out, brushing his cheek with fingers that felt like ice, yet her touch seared him like fire. Her gaze was deep and knowing, as if she could see through the layers of his soul, to the very places where his pain lingered. "Why do you weep?" she asked, her voice filled with a strange sorrow. Johan's heart trembled. It was as if she knew the ache that had lived within him for years, the heartache he had buried deep. He had loved once, a love so fierce it had consumed him. But she had slipped away, leaving him hollow. His breath hitched, and his words came tumbling out in a confession. "I lost her," he murmured. "I lost her, and the world has never felt the same." The Huldra's eyes softened, and her hand reached out to cup his face. Her touch was soothing, like the coolness of the forest itself, yet it burned with something ancient. Her fingers traced the outline of his jaw, pulling him closer. "I understand," she said quietly, "but I can offer you peace. I can make you forget the pain if you will stay with me forever." Her words wrapped around his heart, a promise that sang with the promise of eternal love, of endless solace. But Johan hesitated, his mind battling with his heart. He had heard of the consequences, the men who had fallen into her embrace and were never seen again. The forest would claim them, their souls lost to the Huldra's enchantment. He whispered, feeling the weight of her gaze upon him. I cannot forget who I was. The Huldra's expression shifted, her eyes growing darker, colder, as though she were a creature of sorrow, and her heart was heavy with grief. Her smile faltered, and the melody in her voice trembled. You would leave me? She asked, her voice thick with longing. The hurt in her words was sharp, a blade cutting deep into his chest. I cannot, Johan said, though his own heart seemed to break at the thought of leaving her. I cannot betray the memory of her. A silence hung between them. The wind stilled and the forest held its breath. Then the Huldra's face softened again, her sorrowful smile returning. Then go, she said, her voice no longer a command, but a whisper of acceptance. But know this, no man walks away from me unchanged. You will always feel my presence. The forest will always call you back. With a sudden, graceful movement, she stepped back, her figure fading into the shadows of the trees. The lullaby faded, leaving only the soft hum of the wind in its wake. Johan stood alone in the clearing, his heart pounding in his chest. The weight of the moment pressed on him, the decision he had made lingering in the air like a promise. He turned to leave, but the forest felt different now, warmer, more intimate, as though the trees themselves were alive, watching him, waiting for him. The night would never be the same for Johan. He would never forget the touch of the Huldra, the pull of her song, or the ache in his chest as he walked away. Every time he closed his eyes, her face would be there, haunting him, calling him, reminding him of what he had left behind. The forest had claimed him too, just not in the way he thought. Thank you for reading. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more thrilling tales. Share your thoughts with me in the comments below. What would you have done if you were in Johan's place? Could you walk away from the Huldra's call, or would you let the forest claim you? Until next time, may your path never lead you too deep into the woods.